Here we go. Ooh, for sure. This is exactly where I was. I'm wearing shorts, y'all. so, so this is how I was when this vibe came to me. So we're going with it. Not gonna worry about setting up my space, making sure that everything's put away, making sure I have a shirt on. I got 24 minutes till another call, so I'm gonna record this. I just realized I've been avoiding this for a really long time. And a lot of people have been asking me about my story. I mention often how I had a really, really intense back injury. And I'm going to tell that story. We're going to start, at least. So, it was March 18th, 2018. I had just moved to LA and rented out a brand new apartment in Los Angeles, El Segundo, California. I was so blissful. I was on cloud nine in my own spot by myself. I had a roommate, but I hadn't lived alone for a really long time. I'd been living with my partner, my girlfriend, my fiance, and wife eventually. And we were together for almost 10 years since college in 2009. So 2010. So I hadn't been single in a way for years. And it just felt so extremely freeing to be out in a new city, a fresh new space. I just was so overjoyed. I was really, really close to the downtown of El Segundo, which is a really, really small, quaint downtown. It reminds me of my hometown in Chula Vista, California, down in San Diego, the South Bay. Super, super old school, like no huge buildings, all these small mom and pop shops, like one long strip that just goes down the town, and that's where the shops are. And I lived like at the edge of that strip. And so I could walk through that entire block, multiple blocks, but that entire strip all the way down to the edge of downtown El Segundo in like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I'm taking my really time, And so I had all this excitement, I had all this energy, I had all this joy. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna walk everywhere. Like I'm feeling good, my body's feeling good. I'm gonna go to the Rite Aid, I'm gonna get what I need, I'm gonna go to the grocery store, I'm gonna go to get stuff to eat because there was food spots out there. And I was walking back and forth this whole weekend nonstop. I walked miles, miles and miles. And I hadn't walked that long in a really long time, to be honest. I had been commuting back and forth from Irvine, California to LA. I was working at LAX, LA International Airport. And so I was commuting, living in Irvine, California, 50 miles each way. So 100 miles a day. Sometimes sitting in traffic for 2.5, 3, 4 hours at the end of the day, coming back, waking up super, super early in the morning in order to beat traffic. I was up at like 4 in the morning. We would leave like by 5:15, because like basically by 6 o'clock there was traffic. So got to work at 6 every day, and then made my commute back. And it was incredibly tough. I had been dealing with on and on back pains and sciatica symptoms for a few years now, actually. It flared up randomly one day. I was walking around my neighborhood, was jogging a little bit through the streets, and I remember just like mid jog deciding to cross the street, not at a crosswalk. So I stepped off the curb, but it's because I was jogging. I like kind of leapt off the curb, and when I literally planted my foot onto the asphalt from the sidewalk, I just was immediately stopped in my tracks. I felt this shooting pain up my back that just like completely stopped me. And immediately I was in excruciating pain, was completely stiff, could barely walk. I was struggling to walk. I was like limping home. Um, Made it home, and the next day I wake up, I couldn't get out of bed. Literally, like I could not even like lift my body up. Even like I couldn't move my body. I was like paralyzed almost. And I remember this so vividly because I needed to go to the bathroom. I had to go pee. And I don't know why I was home that day, or if I called in, whatever the details, but Amberlyn, my ex, was not home. We were still dating at the time. And I was by myself in our first apartment in Irvine. And I managed to like roll myself out of bed onto the floor, and then couldn't get up. I could not get up. I prone crawled my way like a snail to the bathroom. It seemed like fucking eternity, dude. Like I'm shaking right now just thinking about this. The pain was so excruciating. Like every single movement, even moving my finger, like would fucking hurt so fucking bad. And I remember getting to the bathroom and being like, how the fuck am I gonna get up onto, like, I can't even stand to pee. I have to get up onto the toilet and sit down. I didn't even know how to get there. I needed support, and I was by myself. I could have called someone. This is how stubborn I was. Probably could have called someone to fucking help me. And hindsight 2020, right? So I'm in the bathroom, and I remember using the door, because the door opened to like the countertop where the sink was. And I remember like holding on to the door and like reaching up the door so I could like reach to the handle of the door to leverage myself up enough to put my hand onto the counter and then like utilize my arm strength and my upper body strength to lift me up. I couldn't use my legs. Like my legs would not, I couldn't press my feet into the floor because it like put so much pressure in my body that it just like was causing all this pain. Granted, I didn't know what was going on at the time. Later, I would find out that what it was. We're going to save that for later. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I had herniations in my spine. We'll explain the rest later. But it's putting pressure on my spine, so it's causing all this freaking nerve pain and like excruciating muscular pain. I'm just like slowly pushing my and like screaming because I'm like, like so much pain. And I finally get up to the bathroom and just like was still in pain sitting on the toilet. I was just like completely exhausted, just like completely debilitated. Like, you ever had that moment where you sprain an ankle really, really bad? You sprain maybe your wrist really, really bad. If you've actually broken a bone, that initial impact when you sprain it, break it, and fall, like that heat that comes over you and you feel completely drained and exhausted. That's exactly what was happening, because like my body was putting so much energy into counteracting this pain that it just like completely debilitated my stamina. And so this was years before moving to LA. And I had done different treatments over the years. We're going to come back to different parts of the story. So I had been on and off working on this pain, right? So I'm in El Segundo for the first time, had been commuting for months, about 6 months back and forth from Irvine. And so you could understand why I'm so fucking happy. Like, I don't have to commute. I'm like, El Segundo's literally right there. It's the city next to LAX. And I lived like 5 minutes from my office. It was fucking amazing. I just felt so good and peaceful. And after that first weekend, when I was walking nonstop, everything just went downhill, completely downhill. I go to work on Monday, I'm limping. And I'm like, okay, like this is interesting. But, you know, I had been here before, so I didn't think too much of it. I was in physical therapy at the time. I actually just switched to a therapist up in El Segundo, like LA area. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, I'm gonna go see my therapist. It's gonna be on Friday. Tuesday comes, it's getting worse. You know, I'm doing my stuff at home. I'm doing my stretches. I'm foam rolling. I'm doing my core. Every single day throughout that week, it progressively got worse. I'm really looking forward to this physical therapy appointment. Finally, get to that physical therapy appointment. And one of the things that they were doing, because when they had brought me into this physical therapy clinic, they did an evaluation, right? And so one of the things that they noticed was that my left hip was extremely high compared to the right, so much so that it made my left leg shorter than my right leg by like an inch or two. It was intense. But they stopped there. They didn't really question or weren't curious as to why. And I always had this curiosity of like, what is really going on, for years. But, you know, I was trusting my doctors, I was trusting the experts around me. You know, I'm not an expert in this field. I am intuitive though. So I knew there was something else, but I was trusting the regimen of my doctors, right? So they were prescribing chiropractic treatment, massage therapy, physical therapy, right? So I'm doing all these regimens and following everything closely, doing my homework. So at the physical therapy clinic, right, they diagnosed me. They noticed that my left hip is high. And one of the treatments that they would do with the therapist would be to stretch me out. And one of the stretches was literally like yanking on my leg. They would take my left leg. I don't even know if they were doing my right leg, like to even it out, but they're taking my left leg and they're like, with the full human, like leaning back, pulling on my ankle and my leg, like, and like stretching it in multiple directions and just like pulling it and pulling it, you know, like, yeah, I'm gonna stretch your leg and it's gonna elongate again. Like, of course, makes sense. Your leg is short, let's pull on it. Nah, fam, this is not it. I was so excited to be in that physical therapy session, right? And it ended up making it worse. The next day, that Saturday, I was completely debilitated. Again, brought back to that first moment in Irvine years back. It'd been like 2 or 3 years since that. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm going backwards. Like, I was so stressed. I was so angry. I was so upset. I was sad. I was depressed. I was like, what is going on? I'm a dancer, I'm a mover, and I was really, really, I'm always into my dance, but I was like so attached to it at the time that like I needed to move. It was something I didn't have good boundaries around. And so it completely killed me, the fact that I couldn't move. I couldn't even listen to music because the music moved me in a way that it made me want to dance, even if it was just my arms. Like, like I was like, I can't even do this because it's fucking hurting my back. Can't even move my arm up. And so I had to call off work that next week. After going to physical therapy, I had to call off for a whole week of work because I couldn't get up. How am I gonna go to work? Even if I work an office job, like, I it's not it. But I'm in construction, so like I need to go into the field. The construction site, it's dangerous. You have to be physically capable. You don't have to be. We do have modifications, work modifications for those who are injured, but like, this is an extreme case. Like, I can't even, like, I could fall, hurt myself. Like, it's not okay. Bye. Doesn't even matter. Couldn't even fucking get out of bed, right? So I called off work. Now I'm even more stressed because before I had moved to LA, I had been in and out of work for weeks. The reason I moved to LA wasn't just because of my physical pain. I got married 2017, April 2017, April 22nd. And in that year, started having major problems and separations with my wife. I found out on Christmas that she was texting someone. She told me it was some dude from her AA class, but there was a huge drama before she even admitted that to me, where she was fighting me and like ripped my shirt off to grab her phone because I took her phone trying to see the text messages and then I didn't even get to see them. That's a whole nother story. After I'd cooled off, she told me it's just a friend from my Alcoholics Anonymous class because she had gotten a DUI earlier that year. 5 days later, New Year's, I'm actually having a huge back flare up at this time around December. So that's 3 months before March when I moved to LA. I'm having an extreme back flare. And I had recurring flare ups throughout these years. And we're at a festival, Countdown, NYE, Insomniac. And I was in so much pain, I couldn't really dance. It was really hard to enjoy the festival. But not only that, like, Amberlyn was drinking. She was being really weird about spending time with me. And then she was purposely going to talk to other men and like gave me weird looks and would like touch them on the chest or the shoulder and be laughing, ha ha ha, and then look back at me to make sure I saw. And I'm like, yo, you're my wife. Like, this is happening right here. She got really wasted, passed out at the hotel when we got home. So I looked through her phone. After what happened on Christmas, I didn't trust her. And I found texts from multiple men, very sexual texts, and it completely broke me. I gave her chances, multiple chances after that in the next month, but ended up, she continued to go see people in Irvine, including her friend from the AA class secretly. And I couldn't stand the lies. So I ran away to San Diego, where I'm from, to go just be away. I stayed with my mom. I stayed with my dad for a bit. I didn't tell them about anything, but they knew what was going on because I wasn't with Amberlyn. I was always with her. So it's like, where is she? Why are you here? And in that time, I was out of work. I couldn't go back home. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, let alone my house, because my wife was there and she wasn't being honest with me. And I didn't know how to really communicate everything that I was feeling without being so angry. And really hated myself through a lot of this, but my work knew about it. I told my boss what was going on. I actually stayed with my manager at my company for like 5 days. And this time I was off work. I wasn't going into work because I was completely mentally, emotionally unstable. Like I had healed enough from that flare up to be okay, but I was just unstable. So I was out of work. So then I had to call off work again in March. Right when I moved back to LA, they had put me in a hotel trying to help me find a spot. They did all these things to take care of me. And then here I am not being able to hold my end of the bargain. And I just like looked down upon myself for that and was just so worried and concerned for my job, my well-being. Like I'm unreliable. I could get fired. Yes, there's protections, but it's like, at what point do they cross the line? It's a business. Ended up going back into work after that week. I healed for a week and then I was like, okay, I feel okay. And I went back into work again. And I remembered like first day I was like sitting in my chair and I like jumped up because there was a shooting pain in my freaking spine and just like was so intense. I couldn't sit down. It was like I could barely stand. It was just so fucked up. And I didn't have doctors that understood. The physical therapist made it worse. People were like, you could do something about it. I could not focus on that. I needed to take care of myself. So I just went to more doctors. It took me 7 different doctors to finally find a doctor that would take care of me and listen to me. And actually, I knew I needed an MRI, but no one would give me an MRI. So I finally got that MRI and found out that I had those disc herniations, 2 slip discs. I had that awareness for so long because my intuition, I had this pain, but I couldn't accept what was going on because I didn't know the root problem. I finally got this MRI. I put the CD in. I took it home. I didn't even hear from the doctor yet. I just put it in and I could see on the MRI, the screening, like immediately. You didn't have to be a doctor to see it. I finally got this validation that, wow, yes, there is something extremely physically wrong with me right now, that I have an extreme physical injury that has been causing this pain for 3 years. That's all I got for now because we're out of time. Thank you for listening to my story. Until next time, we'll continue this story later, y'all. All right. Ciao now.